Good afternoon, and thank you for joining today's webinar. Over the past year and a half, you've reinvented what it means to be a business owner. As your business continues through the next phase of growth and opportunity, we want to ensure we're equipping you with the tools and resources to prepare for another year of demand and uncertainty. Your ability to adapt and succeed makes us excited for what the future holds in Canada. As you prepare for the next phase of growth, it's important to think about your customer's journey from start to finish, from consideration to purchase and delivery. If you haven't already visited our online e-commerce center, I highly encourage you to tap into the additional tips and best practices shared for this new era of e-commerce. Today's webinar is part of a series designed to provide you with resources and expert insights to improve your business as you prepare for the busiest time of year. We're excited to have digital experts from Google Canada and Facebook Canada join us today. Our speakers are excited to provide some tips and tricks on how to leverage digital tools available to Canadian business owners, such as yourself. One quick housekeeping note. If you have any questions during today's webinar, please submit them through the question box icon on your screen. We will get back to you following our webinar. With that, I'm excited to kick it off and introduce you to Tristan Lee. Tristan Lee is the SMB marketing lead at Google Canada. In this role, he primarily focuses on marketing for small and medium-sized businesses, enabling them to embrace the power and capabilities of digital to succeed within Canada and abroad. Tristan has over 8 years of brand management and building under his belt, and is proud of his ability to integrate his empathy, entrepreneurial spirit, and passion for innovation to produce groundbreaking results. Welcome, Tristan. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Anne-Marie, and thank you so much to the FedEx team for having me today. And thank you to all of you for joining us. It's such a pleasure being able to speak with you. I want to take you through today some of the changes that we've seen at Google in consumer behavior over the past year, which there are many of course, and I think we're all feeling them. And then we're going to talk about how you can mix up your marketing strategy to respond to the shifts that we're seeing in Canada, so you can capture more demand this holiday season and beyond. We're all feeling this, but the world has changed really dramatically, almost overnight a year ago, and we're seeing all of the impacts still today, from government restrictions to store closures and more. And even as much of our country has reopened, things are looking a lot different these days than they were before. And I wish I had a crystal ball to tell you what comes next, and I suspect that's part of why some of you are here. But the truth is that no one knows. The world will continue to be unpredictable. There are just some facts as business owners that we can't ignore. And these changes that we're seeing in the world have also changed the way people shop, which has resulted in last year in the largest digital holiday season we've ever seen around the world. $1.1 trillion globally in e-commerce sales. That's 50% higher than the year prior. It's just phenomenal in that it represents how much people are shopping online and are going to continue to shop online in this next year. And we're seeing that change reflected in the growth of Canada's e-commerce industry in Canada, where we've seen this great acceleration. It grew 75% last year, reaching $77 billion in sales, really doubling the proportion of retail sales done online. And this acceleration of e-commerce is very pronounced, but the truth is we were already on this path. COVID-19 has just accelerated it. We saw 152,000 small businesses move online since the start of this pandemic, which is just astonishing when only 1 in 5 were selling online before COVID started. Today, I want to talk about how you can prepare to capture this unprecedented demand, which we believe is only going to continue, especially as we get into another digital holiday season. And as a marketer, there's one truth that becomes clearer and clearer to me over time, and that's that everything starts with the consumer or the user. So I want to highlight to begin a few of the changes that we've seen this past year. Probably no surprise, at Google, we spend a lot of our time looking at search trends because they can be a really helpful proxy for consumer demand in the market. And before the pandemic, I think we would all agree that there's nothing logically that similar about these searches I've got up on the screen right now. But since they're all up over 1,000% or more year over year, and I think it really resonates why and how we've seen our lives change. I want to take you through some more of these insights that we've seen recently. So first, more than ever, consumers are connecting online. At-home media consumption is growing dramatically and really permeating all aspects of our lives. Everyone is living online. 75% of Canadians are spending more time on the internet, especially on their smartphones right now. And that's not going to change anytime too soon. So we really need to adapt and be available where consumers are looking for and searching for information. The next thing I want to talk about is that consumers are not only spending more time online, but they're also adjusting their routines to be internet first. So recently we did some surveys and saw that 23% of surveyed shoppers went online to buy something they would have normally bought in store. And searches for grocery delivery slots have grown globally over 300%. I think just really this demonstrates how our lives have changed, and these are things that we can probably all relate to. We're also seeing people searching for information and content to meet their essential needs. So last year, we saw curbside pickup and home delivery searches being up 70% and 100% respectively. And 60% of Canadian consumers searched for what's open or closed near me. Since then, searches for near me and support small business have also reached all-time highs in Canada, which I think is ultimately good news for our audience of small businesses. And again, just demonstrates how people's behavior has shifted. With this dramatic shift to online that we are seeing, that was always coming, like I said, and it's just been really exaggerated this past year, shopping behaviors are also changing. And I want to talk about a couple of those. We're seeing categories that have historically been offline move completely online. A couple of examples of those are search interest for buy seeds online is up 8 times and continuing to grow. And search interest for order paint online has grown 5 times since last January, as has interest for lumber. So again, these are like categories that are traditionally really researched and bought in store that are now happening online, which just demonstrates how exaggerated the change is. The quarantine has also created lots of opportunities for challenger brands, what we're calling challenger brands. About a third of Canadians shopped with a store or retailer that they hadn't tried before COVID. And there's this higher than normal willingness to discover and try new retailers and brands than before the pandemic, which again, I think is some good news for us as an audience. The last thing I want to share with you is that shopping local has gained a ton of traction. Half of Canadians say they're more likely to shop at a local small business than a big box retailer. And I certainly can feel this in my own life. I've been trying to support local fruit markets, grocery stores, bookshops, and more in my neighborhood and online. And I think, again, this is great news for all of us and for small business owners in Canada, and just showing that intention to support small. The thing I want you to remember is, although these behaviors are new and the pandemic was the catalyst for them, they're not going to go away anytime soon. I feel like I've benefited from the convenience of going online to shop, having online gym classes at home, and more. And of course, I'm excited to be able to see my friends again and go to a concert or go to a TIFF movie. Some of these other changes are really here to stay for the long term. Some things will go back to normal, like I said, but I really believe the shift to online shopping and online business is only going to continue. We work a lot with Ipsos at Google on research, and we've been tracking Canadian consumer behavior throughout the past year and a half. We're seeing that about a third of Canadian consumers expect to shop more online even after the pandemic is over. And demand for services like contactless payments are growing with that shift to online and are really just becoming norms for our society. The good news recently is that business owners want to keep up with this demand. We're seeing that 38% of Canadian business owners say selling online was essential to survival in the pandemic. Almost half say they'll stick with e-commerce after the pandemic, and maybe this is something you can relate to. 40% are saying that the greatest challenge they face is how to attract more customers. And that's where I really want to focus the rest of my time with you today. So the world is going online, and I get that transition to digital may be daunting. And at Google, we're trying to make it easier. So today I'm going to take you through and break down the steps to improving your online presence and marketing your business, especially as you prepare for another digital holiday season. So it's really 4 steps I want to take you through as you think about marketing your business. And I'm going to try to give you the tactical tips throughout and resources you can check out for more info. And I want to say that these principles apply whether you are a retailer, a service-based business, a professional service provider. I'm going to be talking a lot about e-commerce, and I want to start by really defining e-commerce as doing business online, not necessarily selling your products and shipping them online, the way that we typically think about it. The power is in being able to transact online, whether that is offering appointment bookings, having an online presence where customers can contact you, or selling physical products online like a traditional e-commerce business. The other thing I want to mention is that you do not need to do all of these at once. I'm going to talk about everything because I want to give you a broad overview. You can work on any one of these, and the important thing is that you're improving your presence, allowing you to tap into new customers, but you don't need to go from 0 to 100 and try to do everything all at once. So let's get right into it. It all begins, like I said before, with an understanding of your users. And there's two key things I want to highlight here. The first is really being in touch with consumer behavior. So I mentioned earlier, but Google Trends is really a database of consumer intentions and can be a real gold mine for proving out hunches that you have. It's a collection of information of how people are searching for information all around the world, and it's free for you to be able to access. So let's talk about last April as an example, when the pandemic started. We saw this huge surge on yeast searches. What you would also have seen are searches spiking for sourdough as folks look to satisfy their bread making urges, but there wasn't actually enough supply of yeast available. And so many small businesses were cropping up to service this unmet need, including local breweries in Toronto who were delivering yeast with orders of beer. As time progressed, you could see that people gave up on sourdough and searches started spiking for banana bread as people moved on to the next sort of craze in the baking department. So this is just one example of how you might use Google Trends. If you just go to g.co/trends, you can play around with it and search for any terms or phrases and see search behavior around the world. And I want to give you a few tips as a marketer on how you can use it effectively. So use it to prove out hunches. It can seem really daunting if you go in cold, but you can tell some good stories through trends if you have a hypothesis you're trying to prove out. Another example of a good way to use it, and one that I use all the time, is look at other markets as a comparison. And especially with the world changing so much in this pandemic, you could look at other markets as a bit of a crystal ball for what will happen next. So we knew that earlier on in the pandemic, Italy went into lockdown before Canada. Could that have been a crystal ball for other markets that were to follow? And I find that really comparing between markets is a helpful way to think about where our society will go in the future as we move forward. The second part of understanding your users is really being in touch with your existing users and communicating with them. And to do that, you need what's called a first-party data strategy. And first-party data is data that you own as a business and have collected with consent from your users. So as an example, when someone signs up for your newsletter on your website, that's first-party data. When someone purchases and enters their personal information and consents to being contacted by you, that's also first-party data. The key to this is that it gives you a way to communicate with your users who are already using your product or loving your brand. And you can communicate with them through your CRM and your relationship management system that you have to manage emails. One of the most important things that you can do is connect to your first-party data and what we call your second-party data, which is really what people are doing on your website, which you can track through Google Analytics, to your marketing through Google Ads. And what that means is when you connect those data sources to your advertising strategy, you can target and retarget existing users that you have or users that are lapsed. You can create something called similar audiences or lookalike audiences on social, which are larger audiences of people with similar attributes to those who are already loving and buying your products. And this is so powerful because it means you are connecting more intimately with the customers more likely to purchase from you. And the result we see from brands is almost 3 times higher revenue lift and a 1.5 times higher cost savings in brands that employ some sort of first-party data strategy versus those that don't. So to recap on these pieces, know your users. You can check out g.co/trends to see more about Google Trends and how people are searching for information, and have a data strategy. And we can send in an article after that's a good resource on how to start if you're not thinking about that today as a business owner. The second thing is to really actively manage your digital storefront. I often say you should think of your website as like your flagship store, the same way that you'd have one in person if you're a retail business. And again, the same principle applies if you're a plumber or perhaps an accountant or a lawyer or a tourism business. You can have a digital storefront even if you're not a retail business. And so if you follow that principle, you want to direct all of your traffic to this flagship location online. And it's really the hub of your marketing machine. Because you're going to direct so many people here, your website needs to be really high quality. You need strong aesthetics, you need good customer service, fast checkout, all the same things that you need if you were in person. And the nice thing is if you don't have a website today, the good news is it's become a lot easier than it ever was before. E-commerce platforms like BigCommerce and Shopify, WooCommerce, Lightspeed, Square, there are so many of them, make it easier than ever with simple and very usable templates. And each provider has their own different strengths, so it's good to look into the capabilities offered and how applicable they are to your industry. So maybe an example of that could be Square offers a really great appointment booking capability, and you can actually integrate it directly into your business profile on Google. And what that would look like to a user is users could look for you on Google Maps and then book appointments directly with you on your Maps profile if it's integrated with your Square site. So think about what your needs are when you communicate with your customers, and then you can maybe find the right platform for you. If you're looking for one-on-one support getting set up online or really optimizing your e-commerce store, there are some great options out there. And one I'd recommend looking at is a program called Shop Here. It's one we've partnered on with our friends at Digital Main Street. And if you sign up for this program, which is entirely free, you get paired with an e-commerce coordinator who will help you build your online store on Shopify, Lightspeed, or Square. And they help you optimize your site no matter which platform you're on. They'll then teach you how to market your business. And it's open to all industries. You just need to have 10 employees or less, or 25 or less if you're a restaurant. So to recap here, it's easier than ever with my e-commerce platforms to get set up online. And if you need one-on-one support doing that, check out Shop Here as a great program that is free. And you can just go to digitalmainstreet.ca/shop here to sign up. Okay, so you've got your website and you want to think about some of the things that I just mentioned and really how good your customer experience is online. And there's a lot of optimizations that you can do for free to improve your experience online and really grow your sales. I'll give you an example. So Heimatthund is a pet supply store in Germany, and they wanted to see how their site stacked up to other retail sites in their sector. So they headed to this tool that we have called Grow My Store. And you can download a free report for tailored tips and recommendations on how to improve your user experience in a range of key areas. It includes how much product information you have, your store details, how easy it is to shop, and your site speed. And this enabled Heimatthund to plan and prioritize the actions that mattered most to their consumers and would help drive more sales. So they applied some simple changes like adding a search bar on their website so users could quickly find what they needed. They displayed user shopping cart on every page to prompt them to check out earlier. And they made it easier for potential customers to get in touch with them by adding their social media profile, telephone, and email address to the contact page and creating a little chat feature to contact in real time. After prioritizing those few key challenges and taking some steps, all for free, to improve that shopper experience, they began noticing an increase in both the number and value of customer orders. They saw over a 400% increase in revenue and a 490% increase in orders. So you can go to g.co/growmystore, you enter your website, and it'll spit out a report for you, kind of like a doctor's checkup for your site. And whether you're e-commerce enabled or not, you can put in that URL and you get a comprehensive report with a bunch of tailored tips for how to improve your online presence. It covers a number of the topics that I mentioned before, like mobile speed, to the customer service you offer, to the product details you're including, and it even helps you benchmark yourself against other leaders in your industry. And again, regardless of what industry you're in, the principle is important. You want to improve your online presence and how seamless an experience it is for your users to find the information they need, book appointments, and transact, the same way that you would think about that if you were in person as a store. Okay, so maybe you're set up online, and once you're set up online, you're already beginning to market your business online. And there's a lot of free ways you can think about driving traffic back to your website, which, like we talked, is like your flagship store. And so I want to talk about a number of those free ways now. Try to think about where your users are already looking for your products or services. So a few places that come to mind. Google Search and Maps. This is where consumers are looking for information. So you want to have a business profile on Google set up, which is really your way of showing up as a business when people look on Search and Maps for you, and that's entirely free to do. You can also collect reviews through your business profile, and you can syndicate those back to your website so they show up. If you just look up Google My Business, you'll find how to set up these profiles and claim them, which is a really easy process to go through. Another great way to start driving some organic free traffic is social. You can direct traffic from your social networks back to your website. And so it's a great way to show up to an organic audience and then drive traffic back to your site to transact on your site, which is really your homepage, like we talked about. And sort of a last one I'll call it as a tip are something called marketplaces. So these are places online where people are going to look for and shop for products. So think things like Google Shopping, Facebook Marketplace, or even Etsy. And I'll talk a little bit about Google Shopping. We've made listings on the Shopping tab on Google 100% free for all businesses in Canada. So you can show up there when someone looks for the products in your category. You can sign up through Google directly for that, or in some cases through your e-commerce platform. So as an example, if you're on Shopify, there's a little app in the Shopify store called Google Channel, and that can help you sync all of your products that are on your site directly into free shopping listings right away. If you're a service-based business or offering professional services, the best equivalent may be showing up in professional directories, other places where your potential users may be looking for providers like you, and of course in Google Search and Maps where people are looking for information typically. The real idea behind this piece is to capitalize on existing audiences and direct all that traffic back to your site. And once you're here, you can also explore paid as your next step for some predictable growth. But to kind of recap a few of the things I talked about, there's Google Search and Maps where people are looking for information. There's, of course, all of the different social networks where you can collect potential users for your business. And then there are marketplaces or directories where people are already shopping for products like yours. Once you've used some free tools to bring new users to your business, you can think about paid as an option as well for predictable and sustainable growth. And with digital advertising, measurement and targeting is so much easier than it was before. With Google Ads, what I love is that you can do it with whatever budget you have, whether that's $10 or $50 or $300, and you only pay for tangible results like visits to your store, phone calls, website visits, or online sales. And so much of advertising online is automated these days, which is really great because it makes it easier. But if you don't put in the proper goal to the system, it's kind of like driving a car with the GPS to the wrong address. So before you begin paying for advertising, there's two things that you should absolutely do if you're looking at it. First is know the value of a new customer to your business. If you don't do that, you could end up spending too much on advertising and wasting your resources. But if you do, you can have faith that you're getting the return you need from spending on advertising. So let's say, for example, you knew that the average user at your business spends $20 a year on your products. That gives you a good sense of what you may be comfortable paying to acquire a new user and what value they'll bring to you. The second thing I think about is, what's your goal? Is it store visits, phone calls, visits to your website or online sales? Maybe it's even a specific button on your site that you're looking for somebody to click on. You can define your conversion metric when you set up your advertising campaigns, and that means that you will only pay for those results. Once you've done all of that, you can start using paid advertising digitally. And the simplest form that we have at Google is something called Smart Campaigns, where it's really those two steps I mentioned before. You set your budget, the results that you want, and then the tool does all the rest for you. If you're an e-commerce business, I recommend looking at smart shopping campaigns. We talked a bit about free listings on Google before. Smart shopping is basically a way to boost your free listings to a wider and more relevant audience so that you show up more of the times. Again, if you're on a platform like Shopify, you can do that directly through the Google Channel app and get much stronger return on your investment than if you're only doing it with the free listings. If you're a service-based business, we've got something called local service ads, which can really help you to drive traffic from the area where you're offering your services, and it's just as automated. So that's a bit of a crash course in how you could think about paid. I think paid is great because it gives you a way to deliver consistent results at a consistent ROI, and you can scale very easily into other markets. But you need to start with those first few steps that we talked about. So know how much your user is worth to you, whether they're buying your products or your services. That helps you set your budget and know what you're comfortable with from an ROI perspective. Second thing is know your goal, whether it's site visits, signups or your email list, online purchases, whatever it may be, you can optimize to that goal through Google Ads. And I think the last thing I'd say on paid is always start small, test and iterate, and then scale wider, and it can give you very predictable and scalable growth. Once you're online with an e-commerce store and advertising, scaling to new markets, even if it's just the USA, is a great way to expand your reach. And it's actually much easier than it used to be. I'll give you an example. Early on in the pandemic, we worked with Peter Leywine, who's a small business owner in Toronto, who's operated a stationery shop for over 30 years. And on the first day of the lockdowns, he did his first day of $0 in business. Peter quickly set up his store on Shopify and started selling not only outside of Toronto, but actually outside of Canada with his advertising strategy. His sales grew 16 times online within a few weeks. 70% of those were coming from outside of Toronto, and 30% were coming from the USA. And that's compared to before, where he was just operating in a small neighborhood in Toronto. So I think really the takeaway from Peter's story is you can get access to new markets, even if it's just part of the USA, with quite literally the click of a button online. That could mean selling to the greater Vancouver area or the greater Toronto area, selling across your province, and selling internationally. And while that may not be possible if you're a professional service provider with a license or something that is only in Canada, you can still think about exporting out of the city you're operating in, the province that you're in, and expanding your services virtually across Canada. So if you're interested in a way to approach this, you can check out a tool that we have called g.co/Market Finder. It's called Market Finder. And this is a tool that helps you export. You, just like Grow My Store I mentioned before, put in your website, and Market Finder looks at a number of factors in other markets, from search trends related to your product category, to how easy it is to do business, to advertising bidding competitiveness as a proxy for how saturated the market is. And then it recommends potential export markets for you, and then takes you through every single step to setting up shop, from getting in touch with a logistics provider like FedEx to setting up your ad campaign in a new market. So I've covered a lot today, and I want to say a huge thank you so much for listening and for having me. I hope this is a helpful introduction and crash course into what consumers are thinking and doing differently since the start of the pandemic, and how you can respond to that change as a business owner and as a marketer, and prepare for this holiday season where there's going to be a massive amount of online demand. I want to remind you that this really was a crash course in all the steps you could take to improving your online presence, but you absolutely do not need to do all of them and should not try to do all of them at once. I would think about which area is an opportunity for you or challenge for you, work on that, and you'll be well on your way to improving your online presence, which can help you grow. So thanks again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the sessions today.
Thank you, Tristan. You shared some really interesting insights and tactical tips, which I know will help our audience optimize how they market their business online. Like you said, the great acceleration of online retail isn't going anywhere. Your story about Peter alone is fantastic. Thank you again, Tristan. Next, we're joined by Yanni Levy and Sonia Furdyk. Yanni is the Industry Manager for Enterprise Commerce at Facebook Canada. He leads a talented team of marketing advisors who actively consult with global brands on achieving ROI through the use of business functions unlocked by Facebook and Instagram. Also joining us is Sonia Furdyk, Marketing Manager with Facebook. In her role, Sonia is responsible for various Canadian programs, helping businesses of all sizes grow with the use of Facebook's app offerings. Welcome, Yanni and Sonia.
Hello.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Hello, everybody. Yes, thank you so much, Anne-Marie, for having us, and thank you to FedEx, and thank you for everyone taking time out of their busy schedules. I'm sure it is starting to ramp up to be a busy time of year across the year. So we're excited to be here today. Awesome. Oh, I already clicked through the clicker wrong. That's okay. All right, everybody, we're going to kick off. And Yanni and I are really here to discuss how to use and leverage our tools and solutions in terms of a crash course and some real tips and tricks to how to leverage our solutions and platforms at Facebook and on Instagram. So the number that you see on the screen here is quite big, at 3.3 billion people. And that's as many people use Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, and Messenger each and every month. And you may think of how you use our tools and solutions in terms of being a consumer that uses our platforms on the daily, as well as maybe how your friends and family also use our platforms. And that's really to connect with each other and to connect with the things that matter most to them. And me, how I use our platforms are, during these times to connect on Instagram Direct Messenger, as well as Facebook and Facebook Messenger itself to really stay connected with my friends and family, but also to my local small businesses. I use Instagram a lot to understand, through Facebook stories and highlights of what new restaurants are available and what new menu items are. And then also to, see what causes everyone is kind of raising money for in the communities, etc. So it's not only about how people use our tools to connect with each other, but also to local businesses. And that also has to do with reach. So when you think of yourself as a small business, you're really trying to reach people where they spend their time, whether that's across mobile, desktop, or in store. So as Tristan kind of touched on, obviously a lot of businesses now going to e-commerce, but from an in-store perspective itself, we really want our tools and solutions offer the opportunity to also have consumers visit your business in the physical environment as well. And now, what are Yanni and I going to be talking about today? So in the next 25 minutes, we're also offering a kind of crash course in all of our tools and solutions, whether that may be more organic best practices, as well as delving into ads as well. And we're going to be covering mobile first, multiple creative and media excellence. And although we do not have time to cover everything, we hope that we also give you guys some tools and solutions in order to take your learning to the next level beyond today's presentation. Awesome. So now first, I'm going to be covering mobile first. So really, when we think about the tiny screen that's in our pocket or, sitting beside us on our desks right now, really what it is talking about how we can design creative for the mobile screen itself. We know that we are spending far more time on our phones than we did pre-pandemic, and thinking mobile first is not just a 2021 idea, it's been happening for a long time. So we found at Facebook that creative for mobile first has done very well. And how do we know this? So we've tested thousands of ads across the globe in terms of ad recall and percent view time. And what we found is when we put a 30 to 60-second commercial on our platform, so simply taking that horizontal made for TV format and placing it in the mobile screen, it didn't do as well as everyone would have originally thought. And then when we adapted that format for the mobile environment, so cutting the timing shorter, etc., it did lower in view time, but didn't have much ad recall. And then when we found that mobile native creative actually performed the best out of the latter two. So this just emphasizes the importance of specifically designing for the mobile environment. And now I'm going to be walking you through some key tactics and strategies that you can incorporate in your day-to-day strategy, whether that is from an ad strategy, or all of these rules can actually be applied to organic as well. So how do you create an engaging ad? One of the first rules is to offer exciting visuals. As you can see, the example on the right will change here as I'm speaking through it. But as you can see with Lucky Shrub, there are wonderful things that are happening on the screen and providing an engaging experience for the person viewing it, as well as presenting simple animation. So as you can see here, there is a predominant color that's associated with the Lucky Shrub brand, and that's really being shown to engage the audience to learn more. And then also using elements that gain attention. So within this video that's happening here, it's really demonstrating how the product or service can be used. And that's bringing us to the next point that talks about you really want to display the personal and daily use of your business. So whether you are a professional services insurance brand or a CPG or sports equipment, etc., you really want to show how people can integrate your brand and product into their everyday life. And then also designing for sound off. So as we know that Facebook and Instagram and all of our tools are predominantly viewed with sound off. So whether that's incorporating supers or captions into your ads or organic posts, we recommend that just to keep everybody engaged. And then how can you build some of these posts or ads yourself in your own home? So we know that small businesses may be 5 people, or they may be 50 people, and you may not have a full marketing department or a big budget for an agency to support you in some of these creative elements. So working from home, you can create your own in-home studio with just a few simple steps. So by simply getting a piece of foam board, as well as some contact paper, it really allows you to create a consistent brand image across all of your posts or ads. And by doing this, it can be simple, judging by your brand visual and color itself, or you can change up the background to be very consistent with, let's say, a seasonal, such as upcoming holiday seasons, etc. And then something that we also recommend is getting a good tripod in order to, if you're home alone or doing this solo, you have the ability to have that much more flexibility with the type of ads that you're creating or posts that you're creating, and really adjust a shot. And I'll describe some best practices for shooting some images that way as well. And now just creating for mobile in general. So I'm going to present two examples here. They're both from the same brand, but as you can see, they applied some of the rules that I was just talking about. So in terms of creating the consistent branding between the two, focusing on a call to action. So as Tristan was kind of describing, that social can be kind of that organic or paid gateway into viewing your website and going on to the rest of your digital experiences for customers to truly convert and take the designated call to action that you want them to take. So these are just two examples with a shop now and a book now in order for the business to drive the results that they want. And now on to some more tips and tricks on imagery. So one of the best practices is to have a single focal point. So as you can see with the two examples here, they're really focusing on the product at hand, as well as, you know, booking a haircut on the right-hand side at a specific salon, and then the product. So we really emphasize the need to really focus within the visual environment of Facebook and in Instagram to really showcase your product offerings. And then about balancing your photos. So whether you do this up front or take a wider shot that then you can crop, we really recommend implementing the rule of thirds. So as you can see in the phone on the right-hand side here, they're applying the rule of thirds with the grid that's available in iOS. I believe there's some apps for Android, as well as, you know, lining up the intersecting points where the lines cross with the focal point of that image. So by even just doing this trick across all of your images, it allows for a consistent balance between all of your photos, whether you're using that for ads or for organic as well. And then focus on the products or service. I know I kind of discussed this before, but the example here really allows you to crop and focus in on a specific product or service that you're advertising or promoting, and the caption really displays what the purpose of the product is for. So even by simply using our organic tools to overlay some simple text, you can really create a compelling ad unit here. And then ensuring your business is recognizable. So with changing seasons, holiday coming up, Q4, Halloween, etc., you have the ability to really create a consistent brand, even if you know, the different types of formats or creative elements within campaigns kind of switch up throughout the year. So the example here on the right-hand side is really the fact that Club Soda is actually including their brand logo on the bottom left-hand corner across all of their images. So that just creates a overall brand recognition and is something that is very easy for you to just overlay and use across all of the channels that way. And then just a simple way to also make your photos more engaging is by adding some dynamic movement to them. So if you don't have any videos with the specific product or service that you would like to display, there's also the opportunity to use multiple apps that are available to turn photos into dynamic videos. So what you can see on the right-hand side here is an example of an app that allows you to create some dynamic movement and some engaging applications to a photo that you can make in order to draw the consumer's eye in and really drive that call to action. I believe this is for a new collection of some kind, so it would definitely work for a retail brand. So these are just some tips and tricks that you guys can take in terms of highlighting your branding and growing your business on our platforms. And now I'm going to go into two specific tools and resources that we find that are really relevant and used by a lot of the small businesses that we work with. The first is the campaign ideas generator. So what this is and the link is at the bottom here. And what this is a tool that you can plug in your vertical. So it is across all verticals from professional services to CBG brands, and you can put in the suggestions for the type of season that you're looking to promote. So whether that's Halloween, Mother's Day, holidays, etc., and it will actually give you some campaign ideas, creative ideas, etc., in terms of how to leverage our platforms from both the paid and organic side. So this is heavily used by small businesses. And then the next one is called the Creative Guidance Navigator. This is something that has been that is fairly new to the small business community. And what this allows for you to do is kind of understand what type of creative would perform best, depending on, you have the ability to choose your platform that you're going to be advertising on, your format that you will be advertising in, as well as some other details. And then it will actually give you some data-backed insights in order to help you maybe make a decision between the type of format that you want to use based on your creative and some other key takeaways from there. And the link for that one is the fb.me/CGM to access that. And we found that small businesses also use that a lot. So to wrap up the mobile first section here, I kind of, described how mobile is definitely something that you as a small business should be leveraging and can be used both on an ads perspective and an organic perspective to help drive your business, engage customers, and really point them to the moments that matter most to you and connect with moments that matter most to them. Awesome. And now I'm going to pass it on to Yanni.
Thanks, Sonia. So Sonia just took you through sort of how to build mobile first, thumb stopping mobile first creative. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about planning for a variety in your creative and using multiple creative to capture more people and present your products and services in a way that attracts a different audience. And so, when I talk about multiple creative, I'm thinking about, different messages, different ad formats, different color backgrounds, animated video, static images, all kinds of different production approaches. And recognizing that this is a small business audience, the tools that Sonia had just talked about in terms of the ideas generator and the campaign insights are really helpful tools to help you think through what are the various ways that you might present your products and services in a unique way that has an opportunity to attract a different kind of person. And when you're using that, when you put a variety of creative into the platform, it allows it to find the people that are going to be most interested in that product. And so, you want to be thinking about the type of messages, the type of ad formats, but you also want to be thinking about how are people using social and how are they spending time on their phone. So in this first example, you're thinking, think about pre-pandemic where people were on the go, they were on their way to work, they're on a break, they're in the bathroom. These are frequent short spurts on Facebook. And in that context, you really need to have a punchy, short format message that can really quickly deliver information about your product, why it's interesting, why somebody might want to consider your business, and do it in a fast and nimble way. So really actionable messaging. In other instances, people are spending much more intentional time on Facebook and Instagram. They're in a lean back environment where they're this is planned time. They're watching a video or content that their friends and family have shared, and they're sort of there for a little while. And so in that instance, there's an opportunity to tell a more compelling, perhaps a longer form story about the products and services that your business offers. And so recognizing those two types of behaviors on mobile, from really quick and on the go to more leaned back and kind of paying attention and thinking about how that might change the kind of ads, the kind of creative that you might put on the platform is the other variable that a lot of brands are thinking about. The other piece here is really those two the surfaces on social that short form content lives on, whether it's on stories, on messaging and feed, versus more long form content on like Facebook Watch or IGTV. That's where all of this content consumption happens. And so planning for creative that really is going to feel native in each of those areas. This example here is really to kind of hammer home that point of, we have a series of studies that we've done with partner brands around the impact of multiple creative and having variety and how variety can actually drive better results, both in terms of specifically brand results, but also in terms of sales. And so in this example, Group A had an opportunity to see one ad 3 times versus Group 2 had an opportunity to see 3 different ads. And so kind of exactly as you would expect, Group 2 saw much better performance in terms of ad recall, in terms of affinity, in terms of, Sonia, if you move for me to the next slide, in terms of affinity, familiarity, message association. And we have studies like this that say the same thing when it comes to sales impact, whether that's offline sales, online sales. And so thinking about variety and how to come across and share your products and services in different ways are going to help you find a wider range of potential customers. So that's the takeaway here is there's a lot to capture. It's challenging to do all the things that Sonia's talked about so far, and then on top of that, layer on more creative. But the more you're willing to test and dabble and play with different styles and approaches and way to communicate your product, the better our systems are going to be able to find people that are going to find your products and service interesting and relevant to them. So the next section we're going to talk about is really about media excellence. And so here, over the years, advertising has become increasingly more personal and more relevant. And so, more than ever before, businesses are able to reach customers that are most likely to be interested in their products or service. And this improves, both the experience for people who use Facebook and Instagram and want to see things that are relevant to them, products and services that are relevant to them, in addition to, brands and family members that they're interested in following. And this also often leads to better results for businesses. And so think about your own experience here. If you're searching, or you're in the market for a pair of jeans, or you're in the market for a couch, suddenly everywhere online you're seeing advertising for couches and jeans. And so businesses are able to do this by essentially identifying characteristics or behaviors of customers and targeting ads in an aggregate group of customers without ever understanding any specific one person. So we're able to do this in a privacy safe way that feels really relevant and allows you to reach customers that have a higher likelihood of being interested in your products or services. So I'm going to talk a little bit about when you actually decide to take the plunge and go into Facebook advertising and start thinking about identifying how to pass information and signals to Facebook about the customers that are most interested in your products and who's buying your products and services, along with how to identify the target audience that's most relevant to your business and the kind of objectives that you want to set on Facebook. So skip for me, Sonia, to one additional slide ahead. There's really two levers here that Facebook uses that influences who actually sees your products and services and your advertising, or even your organic posts in some ways on Facebook. The first bit is really about the targeting. And Facebook has a rich set of targeting capabilities around location, interest, demographics. And so this helps you think about, who are the types of customers that you're selling to today, and that have the opportunity, that you want to make sure have the opportunity to know about your business, discover your business, and you can share your story with them. And then the second bit that also influences who sees your ads is what you want Facebook to do. What's the business outcome you want Facebook to drive with your campaign? I always say Facebook is very good at doing the one thing you tell it to do. So if you're a business that sells products online, then a conversion campaign focused on driving online sales might be the right campaign type for you. If you're a business that relies on in-store foot traffic, then maybe a reach campaign or a video view campaign that helps a wider range of customers discover your brand is going to be the right campaign for you. And so thinking both about the kind of targeting parameters that help you identify the right customer and the objective of your specific campaign is going to influence who sees your campaign. In this next, when you layer those two things on, this Venn diagram helps you think about like that total audience, like who's that potential audience for your business, and our systems are good at predicting who is likely going to take the action that you've decided this campaign is going to be about. So if you want to convert, if you're trying to reach people that are going to click on a campaign and go to your website and learn more about how to book an appointment perhaps, or how to order products and service from you for delivery, optimizing for this kind of reach campaign or click campaign is going to drive that type of traffic. If you want people to buy online, optimizing for a conversion campaign is going to find a very distinct audience of people that have demonstrated a propensity to buy things online. And then the same is true for kind of any range of other objectives, whether it be video view or downloading an app, if that's the kind of business that you're in. And so these are the ways to think about how to refine your marketing plans on Facebook. There are a billion signals that Facebook can capture, not only in what are you dwelling on, and what are you liking and showing interest in when you're actually in Facebook or Instagram, but businesses have a way of sending back information to Facebook through either an SDK or a pixel, which is a piece of code on your website, or through an offline upload that help Facebook understand, who your best customers are, or potentially for building lookalike audiences of customers that look similar to your best customers, so that you can go after more customers like that. Or for instance, identifying customers that have spent a lot of time browsing your website, are looking and very interested in your products or service, but haven't actually decided to make the purchase yet, and allow you to go back and reach those same customers with additional messaging to help pull them in. And so we rely on these kinds of signals that businesses can send back to help you find the right customer. So one other watch out for businesses is there's a temptation to use all of the magic that Facebook can offer in terms of targeting. There's the temptation to go too deep and define a really, really narrow, really, really niche, refined audiences that are very specific to the business to your business. And so we like to caution our partners about not carving off an audience too narrow, opening up the aperture a little bit and thinking more broadly about who are the potential customers that I can reach, and then using Facebook's optimization capabilities to, within that broad defined audience that you've identified is going to be relevant to your business, allowing the platform to optimize who it serves ads to based on who's actually taking an action on your ad, who's clicking to learn more, who's actually purchasing. And so pairing kind of this broader lens on who your potential customer base is with the optimization that you're looking for is kind of how to go about doing that. So we chatted about a lot, thinking about sort of the targeting and how that impacts who you're reaching, the optimization and how that's going to impact whether you're going to see sales happen online or whether you're trying to drive foot traffic into your store. And this is really just scratching the surface of Facebook tools and services. And so in a second, I'm going to show you a slide to how you can go and learn more about our products and services, and do through self-learning and getting started on Facebook and Instagram tools. So this first, today we covered off mobile first creative. Okay, you skipped to it. So a really amazing online learning program is called Facebook Blueprint. Our employees at Facebook are required to go through this same training, and it's available open to really anyone for free. And this really it has every single capability that Facebook offers, both in the organic space in terms of how to build an online storefront that's on Facebook or an Instagram shop, and also into our advertising tools. And so there's really anything that you're interested in learning more about, you can find directly on Facebook Blueprint. So I encourage small businesses to go and check that out. And then really anytime a small business owner reaches out to me directly and is looking for help and advice on how to grow their business, I always recommend that they check out this Facebook group. This is a group on Facebook called Boost with Facebook Canada. It's a group that's resourced with employees from Facebook that are trying to help and respond to questions that small business owners have about whether they're having trouble with their campaign on Facebook or something, they're not able to make sense of something that's happening. There's an ability to help somebody troubleshoot or point you in the right direction. And so I highly encourage folks to check that out. I think that's a wrap. I once again want to say we're so grateful to our partners at FedEx for inviting us to share some of these tips and tricks and strategies. And there's a lot to cover, and this is just scratching the surface. But hopefully you're able to apply some of these things and have an exceptional Q4 and a strong holiday season.
Thank you for your outstanding insights, Yanni and Sonia. Lots of key considerations for building and optimizing your brand's presence online. And it's no surprise that many Canadian consumers are spending the bulk of their time on social media. So it's a helpful reminder that small businesses need to show up there. So thank you again for your time today. We have had a lot of questions coming through about how everybody can get access to this content because it was a crash course. All of this information will be found on our website after September 28th. So go to fedex.ca and look up our e-commerce center, and you will find all this valuable information here, and obviously with our partners, Google and Facebook. So we hope that today's session has been very valuable, providing you with key takeaways to add to your preparation plans as the holiday season nears. It's definitely been well over a year now since the e-commerce industry grew as a result of the pandemic, and it's a shopping habit that's here to stay. As a business, adopting new, dynamic digital approaches is one of the many ways to definitely meet the expectations of the ever-changing Canadian consumer landscape. And much like you, FedEx Express Canada is committed to evolving to better serve you and help you serve your customers. We wish you tremendous success this holiday season. The FedEx Express Canada team and I look forward to continuing to support Canada's small and medium businesses during this busy time of year. So thank you for joining us today, and I hope that you found it useful. Have a great one.